The first person wakes up on a Sunday morning in a 4-bedroom house in a suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. 2 cars in the driveway, one of them still has a temporary tag in the back window. There's a home gym in the garage that hasn't been touched since March, the treadmill folded up and pushed against boxes that never got unpacked. The kitchen has an island with pendant lighting, the kind you see in magazines. On the counter next to the espresso machine nobody uses anymore is a stack of mail. Underneath a grocery flyer, there's a notice from the auto lender. He doesn't open it. He already knows what it says. In the closet upstairs, 3 pairs of sneakers still have the tissue paper stuffed inside them. His bank account, as of Sunday night, reads $412. Payday is Thursday. He makes $97,000 a year. He checked the account twice this weekend. Quickly, the way you check something you'd rather not look at directly. The second person wakes up in a 2-bedroom rental 15 minutes away. Older building, no island, no pendant lighting, 1 car in the lot, 6 years old, paid off 18 months ago. A small crack in the windshield she keeps meaning to get fixed but hasn't bothered. Her closet has maybe 20 pieces of clothing in it, all of them worn regularly. None of them still had the tags on. On her kitchen table there's a notebook, not a magazine, just a plain notebook with a single number written at the top of this month's page. She checks it every Sunday night, not out of anxiety, out of habit. It takes her 90 seconds. Her bank account, as of Sunday night, reads $34,610. She makes $71,000 a year. She isn't thinking about money at all right now. She's thinking about what to make for dinner. Same metro area, same decade of working life. Neither one inherited anything. Neither one had a lucky break or a lucky mistake either. The first person makes 36% more money and has tonight less than 2% of what the second person has sitting in the bank. This isn't a story about income. It's a story about what you decide a full life is supposed to look like and what you're willing to let go of to get there. That gap, $34,198, give or take on one random Sunday night between 2 people with nearly identical incomes in the same zip code, did not happen because one of them got smarter overnight. It happened one decision at a time, for years, in a direction most people never notice they're heading in. According to a 2025 report from Goldman Sachs on financial strain across income levels, roughly 40% of workers earning more than $500,000 a year say they are living paycheck to paycheck, a number nearly identical to workers making a fraction of that. The report attributes this directly to what it calls lifestyle creep, the phenomenon of luxuries quietly becoming necessities as income rises. Let that land. People earning $500,000 a year, closing out the month with nothing left for the exact same structural reason as someone earning $45,000. It gets more specific the further down the income ladder you go. A 2025 Lending Club and PIMents study found that 62% of U.S. adults were living paycheck to paycheck, and that included 44% of people earning over $100,000 a year. Not people who couldn't find work, not people in crisis, people with 6-figure incomes and nothing left over. The Federal Reserve's own Household Economics Survey found that 37% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing or selling something. Meanwhile, the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis reported the national personal savings rate sitting near 4.6% in early 2025, before falling to 3.7% by the first quarter of 2026, the lowest in 8 quarters. And according to Experian, the average American now carries 7 credit cards on their person, actively using nearly 4 of them at once, spreading a single income across more obligations than most people could name off the top of their head if you ask them right now. Americans are earning more on paper than they ever have. They are keeping less of it than they ever have. Today I'm going to show you exactly why minimalism, not the aesthetic, not the white countertops and the empty shelves you see on social media, but the actual financial discipline underneath it, is the single most reliable predictor of long-term financial stability that almost nobody talks about. Not the theory. The specific decisions, the actual numbers. Here's the part that trips up smart, hardworking people over and over again. Spending does not rise because people become reckless. It rises because available money creates available room, and room gets filled. Think of your income like a container and your spending like gas released into it. Gas doesn't sit neatly in a corner. It expands, quietly and evenly until it fills every inch of space available. And then it presses against the walls looking for more. A raise doesn't sit in your account waiting for a decision. Within weeks, it has already become a nicer apartment, a slightly better car, a few more dinners out, filled almost before you notice the space was there at all. Nobody sits down and decides to increase their spending by exactly the amount of their raise. It happens by default, the same way gas fills a room by default, because nothing was there to stop it. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is the invisible mechanism sitting underneath almost every version of this trap. It's not one bad decision. It's dozens of reasonable ones, each one justified in the moment, each one quietly resetting what normal costs. The dangerous part isn't the spending itself. It's that each upgrade becomes the new floor, not the new ceiling. The nicer apartment stops feeling like a luxury and starts feeling like the baseline you'd be embarrassed to fall below. Once that happens, going back doesn't feel like a saving strategy. It feels like a demotion, and almost nobody volunteers for a demotion. Even a quiet one, even one only they would ever notice. Number 1. Most people believe the goal of earning more money is to be able to afford more things. That belief feels so obvious it barely registers as a belief at all. Of course you buy nicer things when you can afford them. That's the point of working hard. Here's the flip. Every single dollar of new spending you lock into a monthly bill isn't just gone once. It's gone every month, permanently, unless you actively reverse it. And almost nobody actively reverses a lifestyle downgrade once they've already upgraded. The psychology here is called the ratchet effect. Spending moves up easily and moves down only under real pain, because a downgrade doesn't feel neutral. It feels like failure, like admitting something went wrong even when nothing did. A single $400 monthly increase in fixed costs, a nicer car payment, a bigger mortgage, a subscription bundle, doesn't cost you $400. Invested instead at a conservative 8% annual return over 30 years, that same $400 a month becomes approximately $588,000. The purchase price is never the real price. The real price is what that money would have become if you'd let it sit still. Number 2. Most people think of a car as a need, not a decision. But look at what need actually costs right now. According to Experian's State of the Automotive Finance Market Report, the average monthly payment on a new vehicle hit a record $770 in the first quarter of 2026, up nearly 3% from a year earlier, with average loan terms stretching close to 6 years. That's not a car payment, that's a second rent check for an asset that loses value every single day you own it. Here's the mechanism. Cars are sold on monthly payment, not price, which means dealerships can make almost any vehicle affordable simply by stretching the loan longer, hiding the real cost inside a number that fits your budget on paper while draining it in reality. The difference between a $770 car payment and a $350 payment on a reliable used vehicle is $420 a month, invested at 8% over just 15 years. One car ownership cycle, that difference becomes approximately $146,000. One decision, repeated across a single decade, worth a small inheritance nobody left you. Number 3. Most people assume a bigger home means a better life for their family. Nobody argues with that instinct. More space feels like more room to breathe. But a bigger home isn't a single cost. It's dozens of recurring ones stacked on top of each other. Higher property tax, higher insurance, higher utility bills, more square footage that quietly demands more furniture, more repairs, more stuff to fill it. The mechanism is what real estate agents sometimes privately call the furniture cascade. Every additional room you buy eventually gets filled, and filling it costs money you didn't budget for because you were only looking at the mortgage number. A homeowner who buys 600 extra square feet they don't structurally need might add $350 a month in combined carrying costs. Invested instead at 8% over 25 years, that becomes roughly $332,000. The mortgage was never the whole bill. It was the entry fee. Number 4. Most people think financial control requires more tracking, more apps, more spreadsheets, more categories to log. It's the opposite. Decision fatigue is real, and every financial account you maintain is a decision you have to make again and again. According to Experian, the average American now holds 7.1 credit cards and actively uses 3.7 of them. Every one of those cards has its own due date, its own reward structure, its own minimum payment, its own tiny mental tax, paid daily. whether you notice it or not. This week, go through every account you have, every card, every subscription, every buy now, pay later plan, and close or cancel anything you haven't used in the last 60 days. Not pause, cancel. A cluttered financial life doesn't just cost money and fees. It costs you the clarity to notice when something's actually wrong because there's too much noise to hear the signal. Number 5. Most people believe that cutting back on dining out and small daily purchases is a minor detail, the boring advice nobody actually needs to hear again. Here's what the data says instead. The Ramsey Solutions National Study of Millionaires, which surveyed more than 10,000 U.S. millionaires, found that these are people who spend $200 or less a month on restaurants, on average, despite most of them being entirely capable of spending far more. That's not deprivation. That's a boundary, chosen on purpose, that most six-figure earners never set for themselves. The mechanism is what behavioral economists call mental accounting. A $14 lunch doesn't register the same way a $14 withdrawal from savings does, even though it's the same $14, because your brain files small daily purchases into a completely different account than real money. A gap of $300 a month between casual dining habits and a deliberate $200 cap invested at 8% over 20 years becomes approximately $176,000. Small and boring is exactly what building wealth is supposed to feel like most days. Number 6. Most people assume carrying a credit card balance is just a normal part of adult life, something almost everyone does, so it can't be that dangerous. According to Experian and TransUnion data, the average American carried $6,715 in credit card debt as of December 2025, with the average interest rate on accounts carrying a balance above 21%. Compare that to the Ramsey Millionaire study again. Nearly 3/4 of the millionaires surveyed said they have never carried a credit card balance in their entire lives, not paid it off eventually, never carried one. The mechanism here isn't complicated. It's just brutal. Revolving debt at 21% doesn't just cancel out investment growth, it runs in the opposite direction faster than almost anything you could earn legitimately. Trying to build wealth while carrying credit card debt is like trying to fill a bathtub with the drain wide open. The math is not complicated. The behavior is. Number 7. Most people assume you need a high income to eventually become wealthy, that minimalism is a nice idea for people who are already comfortable, but the real unlock is a bigger paycheck. The Ramsey Millionaire study directly contradicts this. Only 31% of the millionaires surveyed averaged $100,000 a year over their entire careers, and a full third never earned six figures in even a single working year. 94% said the same thing in their own words. They lived on less than they made every year, without exception. That's the entire mechanism, stripped down to its skeleton. Not stock picks, not a rich uncle, a gap maintained on purpose between what came in and what went out, held for decades instead of closed the moment it appeared. This is optionality. Every dollar you don't spend today is a dollar that can become a choice tomorrow. The choice to leave a job, to help your kid, to stop being afraid of your own mailbox. 2/3 of the way into this, I want to tell you about David and Marcus. They met in their late 20s, working similar jobs at a logistics company outside Cincinnati. Same starting salary, within a few $1,000s of each other. Both married around the same time. Both had their first kid within a year of each other. David was the kind of guy who did everything right by standard metrics. As soon as he got that first promotion, he bought a house that matched his new status. He upgraded to a brand new midsize SUV, locking in a $750 monthly payment because, as the dealership told him, he could easily afford it. But then the empty rooms in that big house started demanding furniture, and his weekends began disappearing into landscaping bills, home repair stores, and premium subscriptions. Without a single reckless bender, David's container had filled to the brim. His fixed costs swallowed nearly 90% of his take-home pay. Marcus took a different route. When Marcus got the same promotion, he stayed in their modest, comfortable 2-bedroom townhouse. He kept driving his reliable 5-year-old compact sedan, ignoring the temptation to trade up. Instead, the day his raise went into effect, Marcus set up an automatic transfer that routed the entire pay increase straight into his brokerage account. Because he never saw the money, his spending container stayed exactly the same size. For 7 years, both lived their lives. On the surface, they looked like peers doing equally well. But beneath the surface, a massive silent divergence was happening. Then came the restructuring of 2026. Their division was eliminated, and both men were laid off with a 2-month severance package. David's world imploded within 48 hours. With a massive mortgage, a huge car loan, and high utility bills, his monthly fixed overhead was $8,200. His 2-month severance was gone before he even finished updating his resume. The pressure was so suffocating that he was forced to accept the very first job offer he received, a grueling role with a 20% pay cut. And a toxic team. He had no choice. His fixed costs held him hostage. Marcus didn't even flinch. Because his townhouse and compact car cost so little to run, his monthly fixed expenses were a modest $3,100. But more importantly, Marcus had been quietly compounding that automated gap for 7 years. His investment account sat at over $240,000. Marcus didn't need to panic apply for anything. He took a deep breath, spent 4 months traveling with his family, and then spent another 2 months carefully interviewing until he found a perfect fit that offered a higher salary and a better culture. David and Marcus made the exact same salary for 7 years, but David lived on a razor's edge because his container was too big, while Marcus bought himself total autonomy because his container stayed small. That is the difference between aesthetic minimalism and financial minimalism. Aesthetic minimalism is about what you show the world. Financial minimalism is about what you keep for yourself. It's about refusing to let the space in your container get filled by default. It's about reclaiming the margin. So, how do you actually start? The first step is to establish your baseline. Look at your fixed expenses for the last 3 months. Not what you wish you spent, but what you actually spent to keep the lights on and the shelter secure. That number is your current floor. Your job starting today is to make sure that floor doesn't rise the next time your income does. Step 2. Automate the difference. If you get a $300 monthly raise, set up an automatic transfer for $300 the very same day. Don't let it sit in your checking account for even a week, because if it sits there, your brain will find a place for it. Step 3. Declutter your financial ecosystem. Close the store cards, cancel the unused subscriptions, and consolidate your accounts until you can see your entire financial picture on a single page. If it's too complicated to track in your head, it's too complicated to manage in reality. Building wealth isn't about finding a secret shortcut or picking the perfect stock. It's about having the courage to look boring today so you can be completely free tomorrow. It's about keeping your container small, maintaining your gap, and letting time do the heavy lifting. That is true financial power. Go make your baseline, automate the difference, and stop letting your container expand. You've got this. Now, let's pivot to how you can immediately optimize your monthly cash flow. Most people think optimization requires aggressive sacrifice, but it actually starts with awareness. Think of your money as water flowing through a pipe system. Any unmonitored subscription is a silent leak. Fixing the system doesn't mean stopping the water, it means sealing the gaps so the pressure remains high. In our next segment, we will map out the exact tracking template used by top wealth managers. This template breaks your financial life into 3 distinct categories: fixed obligations, investment targets, and guilt-free spending. By categorizing your money this way, you eliminate the cognitive fatigue of tracking every single cent. You don't need to feel guilty about buying a latte if your investment target for the month has already been automatically swept away. The system protects you from yourself by locking in the progress first. Let's open up the sheet and look at the actual numbers. The first column represents your fixed commitments: rent or mortgage, utilities, minimum debt payments, and basic groceries. Ideally, this number should consume no more than 50% of your total net take-home pay. If it handles more than that, you are exposed to sudden economic shifts, leaving very little room to absorb shocks. The second column tracks your financial future: investments, extra principal payments, and cash emergency funds. We target a minimum of 20% allocated here, setting the foundation for true wealth compounding. The third and final column is your guilt-free spending: dining out, entertainment, travel, and personal hobbies. This accounts for the remaining 30% of your take-home pay. Because you've already secured your floor and automatically funded your future, you can spend this money completely stress-free. There is no more tracking pennies, no more budgeting apps that make you feel guilty for buying a latte. Remember, the ultimate goal of building wealth isn't just to hoard cash. It's about buying back your time, your peace of mind, and the absolute freedom to design a life you actually love. Take control of your container, automate your gap, and watch your freedom compound. I'll see you in the next video.